Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Stevie Bullets. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, my brother?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
So, a lot of people have been asking me about who you are and all that. Do you want to give them a little background, a little bit of your background, and then we'll get into some stories?
Yeah. So they call me Stevie Bullets. I'm from Cicero, Illinois. Infamous for Al Capone. Uh, it's outfit town. A lot of mafia guys. If you're familiar in Chicago, we have the Chicago outfit. I ran with the street gang, the 12th Street Players. It was in Cicero. Our area was on Roosevelt Road in Austin. Uh, I started out in the gang, as a peewee. Uh, Most of the time, I was the one sent on missions. Uh, I was a shooter. Then as I got older, and I got bullied a lot as a kid, from these older guys that were in the neighborhood. So it wasn't like I was a leader or nothing like that of the gang. But I always stayed in the neighborhood. And just growing up, and then my crimes escalated. I started going to prison, started meeting different people, and to me, I was drawn towards that. So when I started going to prison, for me, that was like an adrenaline rush. I felt.
What was the first time you went to prison? What was it for?
I believe it was a stolen car or some type of burglary. I was always into thefts. And like I said, I started with petty thefts, and then they would escalate to bigger thefts like warehouses and armed robberies. And, my crimes just got to the point where if I was to get caught for these, I would end up doing, probably life or something like that. And, in my case, my story is a redemption story because I had went through so many things in my life that I probably shouldn't even be here talking, and I'm fortunate that I am, and that with everything that happened, I was able to turn my life around. Now, like I said, I'm married, I have 3 kids, work every day, and I was one of the people in the neighborhood that everybody said would never make it, and now here I am. I'm doing a documentary on my life story. Working with James Forney and Joe Seifert and Octane Rich Films. Also developing a nonfiction book with noted true crime agent Chip McGregor, and also working with Cyril DePaggio, and hopefully doing some big things with him. He's down there in Miami. Shout out to Cyril. Uh, yeah, when I was in prison, I started writing a book, and then it started from there. I planted the seed. So when I got out and I was telling people and everybody, because of the circumstances, like I said, I had a bad relationship with the police in Cicero and in Berwyn. And, I had a friend, it was July 18th, 2000. I was involved in a drug transaction that had gone wrong. Police officer shot and killed the individual. He was unarmed Latino. He was one of my best friends. Uh, there was no charges in the case. It was just, everything was just dismissed. I wasn't there when he got shot. I had actually went the other way. So I never seen what had happened or anything like that. But that's when all my problems started with the police. I mean, it started before that, but after that incident, there was a lot of tension with the police after that. And, I was being harassed for years, since I was a juvenile, but that made it even worse. And then, of course, me committing crime and stuff like that, I brought a lot of attention, and the police officers didn't like what I was doing. And in my case, it turned around because I had met my wife, and my brother-in-law, who was a police officer, he was the one that reached out to me when I got out of prison, offered me a job. I got my foot in the door. And then from there, I started going straight. And, he influenced me, and, he never came at me like as a police officer or nothing like that. just came at me as a family member. And then I started changing the way that I had thought, about having a grudge against the police. Then, of course, you see the thing with George Floyd on television. So, I always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. But, now that I got kids and stuff and I see everything that's happening in the world, I started to want to make a difference, around my neighborhood. And, like I said, I started doing my story. It's My Way, the Cicero Way. Started a page on Facebook, basically promoting things in the neighborhood, but at the same time making it very interesting because, like I said, I have family members that were part of the outfit in Chicago. My uncle was a doorman for a strip club in Cicero called the Spot Lounge. So that was how I was introduced to certain individuals that were involved in organized crime and stuff. And from there, I met certain people, and then of course, like going to prison and stuff, I met some high profile individuals that were part of the outfit, and my name started circulating. So then when I did get out, it opened up some doors for me in some ways, for other things, and I just got I started doing my story, and a lot of people, they didn't mind it as long as I knew what my boundaries were, and I pretty much did it. How
long have you been out of prison? How long have you been out of prison since your last?
Oh, over 10 years. Over 10
me
years.
Too. Me too,
man. And basically, like I said, I was one of the people in the neighborhood that, they didn't think was going to make it, because I was involved with drugs. I was also involved with, like I said, all kinds of crime. Then, we had all that bad history with the police and stuff. But then when I started doing my story, the redemption story and stuff like that, I didn't want to, make people think that I had, anything resentment towards police. And I don't, you know what I mean? Because there were a lot of bad police officers that I had dealt with too, that, I wanted to start talking about because, I had a federal case and it involved a police officer, and I was actually trying to help the individual and got thrown under the rug, lied to a grand jury basically to protect somebody. And, it backfired, you try to do the right thing and then, yeah. And, but like I said, I'm not going that route. I'm just going to, do my story, talk about my family history, which is all true, how my uncle had introduced me to certain people. And most of the guys that were running with me, they're either dead or in jail. None of them are really around anymore. And the ones that are, they don't really care, because it's all history anyways. But
you want to explain to the people why they call you Stevie Bullets? I'm sure they're wondering.
So, like I said, I was a shooter too, but I also got shot 11 times on 4 different occasions. Shot twice in my head. Then the rest were throughout the body. And, every time that it happened, they were all deadly shots. I wasn't supposed to live. Like I said, I was very active in the streets. I was out there giving bullets, taking bullets, I was involved in a lot of bad shit. And then one time, like I said, it was like a burglary gone wrong. And the individual came running out, shot me in the head. And, we talk about that in my documentary and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened,
So after you get shot in the head, do you end up going to prison from that?
No, I ended up going to prison for other crimes. Basically, I was a burglar. I was involved with a lot of stealing, and then it went to armed robberies, and then all the stuff in between that. Once you start getting into that lifestyle, and then there's drugs involved, I started meeting people that were into like big drugs, pushing big weight, and like I said, not like I came out with anything yet, in the end, and I talk about that too. I was basically used, and then, now that I'm doing the story, certain people want to get involved, but there's no room. It's just, we're not going to talk about you. They, we know you were
Trust
there
me.
with me.
Trust me,
Yeah.
people want to get involved with shit I got going on. I'm like, there ain't no room for you here, man.
No,
People are like, yo, I'm
and
ready to do it now. I'm like, man, you're a little too late, bro.
yeah, and the other thing is I'm not a person that just talks. People see, they know me from the neighborhood, so they know what I'm about. They know what I'm doing. I'm not involved with anything criminal. I have a regular 9 to 5 job. I'm pretty legit for the most part. I got nothing to hide. I'm very public about everything that I'm doing and stuff like that. Like I said, I had 3 kids, so I don't even try to jeopardize any of that for anybody. You get people that will try to test you every now and then, but personally, me, I can't even risk it with my children. I have a son; he's 9 years old. He's autistic, so that's the things that I focus on now. Is being there for my kids.
Yeah, man, I got a daughter. I try to lead by example now,
Yeah, absolutely. And see, that's the other thing is, you know, because the way everything turned out for me is like I said, I met my wife, her family was in law enforcement, and just because of the bad blood between us, I didn't, I never thought it would happen the way it did, and then it did. And he was one of the people that looked out for me. And, I had to look at it from another view and not be so close-minded. And I think that's why I'm successful, is because even when I was in prison, I stayed in the books the entire time, getting educated, learning stuff. I was like two credits short of a associate's degree, you know. So when I got out and stuff, I told my wife, I just didn't want to waste any more time. I wanted to get out and use every minute of every day doing something positive and moving forward, because it'd be easy for me to go back in the streets and get, back in the game and, get fast money and stuff like that. But from the things that I seen, those guys were always getting told on, or, eventually getting taken out and stuff like that. Not too many of them make it very far. It'll go for a short time, and then somebody will get jealous and tell on them, or whatnot. So
Of course.
my wife's like, why don't you just do your book? And we started from there. And then I, with the Facebook and social media, I started hooking up with people, and they were interested, because they're like, what's the click to the Stevie bullets? And I could tell you anything, but the streets will tell you another thing. But there's a lot of truth to it. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing. And then, like I said, we go into like people that I dealt with, cartel, outfit, and it's all true, and it's all history. So people can Google this stuff and look into it and see what's going on. And that's the best thing about it, is I got pictures, documents, stuff like that. Not limelighting anybody. So I know my boundaries in the streets, and that's why people don't have a problem with it, because basically, if I do talk about something, it's somebody in my family or somebody that's deceased,
Mm-hmm.
And if we do talk about somebody and they don't like it, well, too bad, right?
That's why, like, people, if they don't like my show, man, keep it moving. I don't care, man. You can go somewhere else. Give it shit.
I try not to disrespect anybody, but at the same time, I'm not going to tiptoe around things. It is what it is, and I try to say it in a respectful way. And if you perceive it in a different way, well, I'm from Cicero. You're too shit out of luck,
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So,
man.
We're doing a lot of things, and like I said, I'm just a regular guy from the streets. I'm not a chief or hitman or nothing like that. But I learned, when I went to the joint, who was who. And then, of course, like I said, I had family that was, most of my friends, either their dads or their uncles, or everybody was involved in the outfit, in one way or another. And that was just the way Cicero was, growing up for me. And
yeah, Chicago's a whole different animal than New York, man. People don't
Oh yeah,
understand. Chicago's like a whole different. It's just different.
yeah,
Nah.
and I'm not an expert in these things, but you see that it's a big thing, the culture with the outfit, the narco culture with the cartels, and people are drawn to this type of lifestyle. And I can see why. That's why these people are doing these podcasts and stuff like that, because you know if it makes money, then there's interest in it, right?
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
just
there's
how.
a lot of the mob's pretty big right now, man. It's getting picking up steam.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
mob genre.
and in Chicago, they're very powerful. They might be a lot different than they used to be as far as like killing people and stuff like that. But I mean, I believe that they're very strong, and that if you say the wrong thing, it might come back. That's why when I do these things, I like I said, I don't talk about things that I don't know about or people that I don't associate with. Really don't talk about anybody I associate with. I just do my story talking about myself and try to go from there.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, I haven't had no issues because I haven't said things about people. I'm not blasting people out there, like that. But at the same time, I'm just going through my stuff.
So when you were in prison, is that where you decided to start walking away from that life? Were you like, I
Well,
had
yeah,
enough of this, or did it like start gradually?
well, yeah. I mean, because like I said, I had been doing a lot of time. I had spent most of my life, a good portion of it from a juvenile to basically 10 years ago in the prison system, in and out. And they were considering me habitual criminal. So I was starting at 6 years and going up to 30. So at that point, for me, it was like a life sentence. And by the time I was getting close to my 30s, I started looking at life and, seeing where I was going and stuff. And, I knew the prison system way too well. It was like I could go to the joint and I could, make moves and make money. And I was getting real comfortable with it. And like I said, when I was reading these books, I was learning about this and I was coming institutionalized, what they call it. And I see
Yeah.
myself, and then the individuals that I was around, like serial killers, murderers, rapists, and stuff like that. And then I had to look at myself, and for a long time, my thinking was basically the same. Was I had, you know, I had nothing good up here, nothing good in my heart. It was all bad stuff, and of course, I got out, and then I met my wife, and you have to choose between this and that. And we weren't married at the time, but I knew that that's who I wanted to be with. So I ended up doing one more bit, and when I got out, I ended up marrying her, and now we have 3 kids. So I just made that choice when I got out, like and like I said, I had wrote these letters to my wife. Everything that I wanted, it actually came true. You know, that
Yeah.
was another part of my story too. Was that like I had wrote these letters to my wife, and I planted the seed by writing this stuff down and telling her what I wanted in life. And I actually envisioned it in my head. And when I got out, I started making these things happen. And I never thought any of this was going to be possible. And now here
Yeah.
I am getting ready to do a documentary. And it's gained a lot of attention, you know, everywhere. Because when I first started it, you know, nobody took it serious. And, then all of a sudden it just started taking off slowly. And then people, you know, like I said, every now and then you'll get people that hate, but I really haven't. Only people that had any issues were like people in the neighborhood, making sure that I wasn't going to start talking about sacred stuff, which
Yeah.
I wouldn't, because like I said, I live in the neighborhood. So, we could talk about the outfit and stuff like that, but we don't have to talk about present day outfit. We don't have
Yeah.
to talk about the guys that are around now, which I wouldn't, you know, uh, because I respect those guys to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Uh, because if you're respected in a neighborhood, that's a good thing. You just got to know what to walk away from. Like I do. I can get involved in criminal stuff, but I have no interest in that because I understand that once you get in with that, you got to, if you get popped, you got to go down with it. And I'm not willing to go down. I'm not willing to do no more time. So I just got a regular job,
Yeah.
and then
you're just trying to be a regular guy now, and then maybe things will jump off with this stuff you got going on, right?
Yeah, try to make something good out of it, and at the same time, try to do something good for the neighborhood too, because, a lot of guys that I seen that, since they were kids before, my friends, they had kids, and, you see these guys go down the road, end up in the joint, and that's when it starts hitting home, is when you start seeing people dying that are close to you, which I had a lot of friends that were killed in the streets. Two of my best friends were killed. Then my friend's son was killed, when this COVID stuff came out. We had riots here in Chicago. And that was the breaking point for me, just, seeing the impact around me of all these people, and I couldn't imagine seeing, one of my kids dying because of gang violence and stuff like that. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. So, I have a different outlook on it. There's still guys that are, in the streets, and I respect that. You'll see like the Playboy Bunny and stuff like that, and I'm not really promoting 12th Street players like that. But they're part of my history. So I always include it in there, because that stuff represents me. You know what I mean? Don't represent the 12th Street players. I got love for them guys, because that's where my roots were. But, I'm not promoting anything gang related or anything like that. If anything, want to stray some people away from that. I don't want to be a motivational speaker or nothing.
Do you want to explain maybe the first time that they had you go shoot somebody or shoot at somebody?
So when I was a shorty, that's what we were, peewees. We were at a gang war with the Latin Counts and the Bishops, which was a Latino gang in the neighborhood. During the 1990s, we went into, well, at first everything was good. We shared the neighborhood, but then tensions start building of, whose hood it was. And, drunk fight turned into something else. This fight, and then next, we're shooting at each other. So we went to a pretty, bloody war throughout the 90s, from like 1990 all the way up to like the early 2000s, and a lot of the shootings that I did was against rival, the Latin Counts. My first shootings, were around McKinley Park. I don't know, probably shot an individual here and there, but I ended up getting shot myself.
How old were you when you first got shot the first time?
17, and it was in retaliation, to prior shootings that I had done against these guys. There was a big feud, like I said, with the Latin Counts. That was our main rivals. So that's where a lot of the bad stuff started. Luckily I'm alive. None of the guys are, well, maybe, I'm not sure.
I think you explained the story to me before, but do you want to explain the first time you got shot?
So the first time that I got shot, I got shot by the Latin Counts. Somebody had tipped them off or somewhat, and we were at a place drinking, getting ready to get loose, and we weren't expecting. They crept up on us. I heard some spray painting. So at that time, we approached these guys. I hear the spray paint, and pop, 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 pop. I get one in my neck. My buddy, he rolls down, falls down some hill. Next thing I know, I got one guy that stayed with me. He's actually a pastor now. He moved. It changed his life after that. But he stayed with me, walked me out of the woods. The other individual grabbed me at the end of the woods, and they drove me to the hospital. Probably was.
You're lucky to be alive, man. Get shot in the neck.
Yeah, well, it was an in and out. It went through, came out through next to the spinal cord, didn't hit anything major. And like I said, at that time, I was still really deep in the streets. As soon as I got out, went straight to a gang meeting, talked to the guys. Of course, we're retaliating for that. Uh, but at that time, that's how my thinking was. And for me, that was
So you,
normal.
so you got bandages on, and you're like, we're gonna go get these dudes.
Yeah, we're going right back. And not only that, but I believe it was I had staples in my neck. I ended up going to the county jail. I had remember because they had taken the staples out while I was in the county, and I thought maybe I was going to get some leniency, because of the
Oh,
injury.
yeah. Oh,
But
they don't care, man.
no, they didn't care. And like I said, just being in the system like that, meeting people, you just start getting deeper into that lifestyle, and you start, meeting individuals, and you start learning the ropes. And I knew them way too well, because anybody will tell you that was in prison with me was, I get down to the joint. I know how to make my moves. I'm a talker, so I'll get in there, and I'll know who's who, and I'm a hustler. I was,
So when you were with the 12th Street Players, was it what nationality of people were they?
Italian, Irish, Serbian, mostly predominantly white, but it was mostly Italians. So they had the same mentality, like like the outfit and stuff like that. That's how it was run in my neighborhood. So basically, like when you see this stuff, like The Sopranos, Bronx Tale, I'm looking at this stuff, and that's like normal life for where I grew up. That was how life was, and stuff like that, because like I said, it was normal for a brother or an uncle or grandfather to be part of the outfit, and they were respected. They weren't looked at like as a street gang or a bad thing necessarily. Like I said, my grandmother, when I first learned about it, I was a kid. I was probably like 8 or 9. I used to wonder where my grandmother had all this money, and she would buy presents and cars and houses for family members. And she never went out. She stayed in her house. Well, she lived in an apartment on Ashland and Addison. She owned the building. And then I had asked her one time, and she told me that my grandfather was part of the syndicate or worked for the syndicate, I guess, dealing cards. So, that's the card games. And they had a bar downstairs. And then, of course, growing up, I had seen my uncle Butch Messina. He worked at the club, and he was always driving nice Cadillacs and had nice cars, flashy rings. So I kind of knew that he was part of that too, but I never asked him, hey, are you part of the mafia? Are you part of the outfit? But, my dad started telling me things. And like I said, to this day, he won't admit, his association. He just say that he's the doorman. And that's all I asked him, but he knew because when we started doing the documentary, we started talking about certain things, he was surprised because certain people that I had known, were his age. And, I have a family history. And like I said, my uncle was a driver for the Chicago outfit. He was part of the 42 gang, which is the El Capone crew. So when my uncles and my grandfather first came here from Achara, Italy.
See, my audience knows what you're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, my uncle and my grandfather, they were all associated with the 42 gang. I have the articles and stuff. So like when they had this ancestry.com and all that, that's where I started getting more information on my family. And like I had never known that my grandfather was involved in like a murder. And then I found the article, and there was a lot of things my grandmother never told me, but there were things that she told me. So now they're starting to make sense to me now. And then,
so there's an article. There's an article about your grandfather being involved with a murder.
Yeah, it's like 1943, but it's
Wow.
if you do the archives, it's Domenico, Domnico Messina, Messina. And we found some of it, and he did do some prison time. So he, we got that information out of my uncle and stuff, and then we started getting like pictures and stuff like that. And he knew a lot of people in the Teamsters, and I remember my grandmother would talk. My aunt Leona, she's deceased now, but she was named after outfit Leo Manfredini. And my grandmother used to talk about Leo Manfredini a lot. And then, my mother had told me stories because my mother, her being Italian, she never glorified, Al Capone or any of that stuff. So, when that stuff would come up, she never talked about it like that, because when she was growing up in Cicero, my mother's from Cicero too,
Mm-hmm.
Italians had a bad image back then. And she used to tell me, sometimes because of her last name, she would get problems. So she didn't like to be, represent Italian, heritage in a bad way, anything with Al Capone or nothing like that.
Yeah, I heard that his family was getting harassed and everything for years, and people changed their name and a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, so, but I mean, luckily for us, my family always had good history. All the stuff that started coming out wasn't until recently, about my grandfather. But for the most part, he was a respected man from my knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I never met him, but I had always heard the stories, and I always had this great image of my grandfather. Taking care of my family because they were always taken care of. And I didn't learn about the criminal stuff until this ancestry.com and stuff like that. And it was just kind of ironic because I was already doing my own thing, and then I had my own history with some the outfit guys, and then of course my uncle Butch, who's still alive, and we talk about that without saying names and stuff. We go into the stories about the strip club and just being around these guys and the way we felt, and getting respected. That's another thing. When you get these guys around you and they respect you and they know that you're not going to snitch. Because, like I said, I've never snitched on nobody, and these guys know it, so they know when I do the podcast, I'm not going to say nobody's names or implicate somebody like that.
have you ever seen a situation where maybe a made man has been assaulted, like somebody put their hands on a made man? Because how they say if someone puts their hands on a made man, then they got to get killed. Have you seen that?
Well, I don't, the federal system, it's a little different. But like in the state system, guys that are involved with the outfit, like I said, I was locked up with Harry Allman, and, he was respected, as far as I know. I never seen anybody assault him or anything like that. And for the most part, as long as you respect everybody, you won't have no issues. But, I don't know how true that is about, because I think anybody could be touched, they don't it's not like the old days. I think
it's not like the old days, no.
And you might be a target by saying that, you go to the joint, and these young guys have no respect whatsoever. So if you go into the joint talking about you're a made guy, they probably won't believe you, first of all, and then they'll probably try you just so they can get recognized. But but in the federal system, it's a little different, because those guys have a lot more power. And
did you do both state and fed time?
No. So I got a federal number because I got picked up the first time for perjury. So that's how I got my FBI number. And I got 1 year added to my state time. So I had 3-year sentence in IDOC, which is Illinois Department of Corrections, and it ran consecutive or concurrent with the state time. So I ended up getting 1 year extra for a federal perjury charge, which I should have never got. Tried to save somebody by lying, and I ended up getting thrown under the bus. And then, when it came time to collect my debt, I was
never works like that, man. It never works like that.
No, you rotten bastard, man. Here I am trying to save you, and now I'm asking for my, for my end of the share, and you're gonna, accuse me of extorting you. You know,
Of
it's not
course.
extortion. It's just the deal that we had. You know, you know, it was a verbal agreement. And if you're not a man of your word, like I was, and then you renege on me, and then you want to go tell the neighborhood that I did something that I didn't when I actually tried to save the guy. You know,
That's how a lot of
but
people are. A lot of people are out for their self, man. They'll throw the next person under the bus. They don't care.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah. But they know the truth. Like I said, I could have threw a lot of people out there, but I never did. Because that's not the way I wanted to go to build myself up, was by talking about other people. You know,
Yeah,
but
man.
the good thing is want to move forward, promote Cicero in a good way, and everybody
When
that's
is
on board with me.
when is your documentary coming out?
So what we're doing right now is we're doing a documentary. We got a package already started, and they're saying about 6 months. With filming, editing, and whatever they got to do. I'm not an expert in that. The producer that's mainly dealing with me is James Forney. He's done a documentary on Britney Spears in 2001 called Stages. He had a couple other projects, stuff like that. Then I'm also working with Cyril DePaggio. They call him the Mob King down in Miami. You could Google him. He's got some interesting stuff. It's outfit related, but it's down there in Miami, and I think he's got some other stuff called Silent Partners. So hopefully after we do the documentary with these guys, we can go into hopefully like a series, based on the life events of Stevie Bullets, so that way that I'm not criminalizing myself, but at the same time, we'll be able to get, the content out there, because like I said, the stuff that I was involved with was pretty deep. And I was just lucky to make it out of that life, and still be able to stay in the neighborhood with respect and stuff like that. But still be able to do the story. You know, like I said, the
Liz
guys.
Coppola. Liz Coppola says Cicero is a very good friend of mine. Tell him Liz said hi.
Yeah, I talk to Cyril on a daily basis. That's another great story right there. Was Cyril DePaggio's producer, working with some guys out there in Spain, and I was a fan of his, and I seen some of his content, and I was interested in it. And the first time I had hit him up, he didn't recognize or pay attention to me. And then some real serious stuff had happened with the guy out here with one of the Hells Angels. And luckily I was able to mediate some peace between these guys, and kind of calm things down, which you're aware of. And it worked out pretty much for everyone. And then Cyril became a personal friend of mine, because after that, we were, he recognized me and I recognized him. And, I seen that he was a solid guy. He seen what I was trying to do. And we just stay in touch on a daily basis. Guy calls me 3-4 times a day. I'll call him, and he just said, "Hey, any way I can promote you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever you can do. I just want to get this out there. It's very interesting. I was fortunate to make it through these events. A lot of people, when you look at me, you just see a white guy, so you're not thinking, all the stuff that I was involved with. But then when I get into my documentary, we'll go into like really deep depth, and like you'll see, I'm very lucky, very blessed. That's why they call me Stevie Bullets, if you want to know,
Yeah,
because
man.
I'm not supposed to be here.
11
And not
times.
only that,
Shit.
but
That's crazy.
yeah, and it's not only that, it's just that, from how deep I was into that criminal life, into that evilness and stuff like that, I'm not like a holy roller Christian or nothing like that. But I do believe in God, and for me, my life was turned around. People were put into my life. I met my wife, Lucia, and you know, she had a lot to do with me changing and redirecting me. We ended up having 3 children. My first son was autistic. And I knew at that moment that, you know, I wasn't going to leave him out here. You know, the way the world is and all the stuff that I had went through, I couldn't imagine seeing my son being autistic, going through that. So I wanted to be out here for him. And, you know, when you love somebody, you'll do anything. And for me, it changed my life. And then I
Do you
had 2
find
other
it
kids.
hard? Do you find it hard to change your life as you go on? Like if
Yeah.
people test you on a daily basis, or
Oh,
they
yeah.
talk shit.
Yeah. So, you know, I had a few setbacks, you know, when I first had my children. I'm not going to say that life was perfect or nothing because I had a few setbacks, but I was able to pick myself, dust myself off because I understood no matter what happens, I can't stop being a dad and that, you know, my kids are always going to be there. So I got to just keep going. And I was, because there were times I was ready to give up, you know, and I thought I was going to end up back in prison or dead or, you know, worse, doing something to somebody else. Because, you know, as I started getting older and people were testing me, I was just at the point where I was ended up killing somebody, you know, because
And
I
then
just
what?
didn't. Yeah. Well, at that point, I really didn't care. I really didn't. And I felt like, you know, since I was a kid, I had taken all these ass whoopings from bullies and stuff like that, that I was at the point where, you know,
It's
if you
time to
try
give them
me,
out now.
yeah, yeah, that's what happened in my life was when I was a kid, the crew that I ran with, these guys were rough, man. They
Yeah.
weren't playing. They were, you know, you were getting your ass whooped. And I'm talking pumpkin heads, man. I got my nose broke a few times.
People I
But
ran with, man, they don't fuck around either, man.
no, and the
No.
good thing was that these guys had been so rough on me so many years that they used to always say, "Man, why does this guy keep coming back?" And then they understood that I was crazy and that I wasn't no punk, and that, you know, I was tired of them doing that to me, and that now it was my turn, you know. And I never became a bully. I never became a bully, but, you know, going to the joint, I started working out. You know, I started getting bigger, and then that was it. You know, because I knew people and they respected me and they couldn't touch me no more. And then, you
Yeah.
know, of course, like I said, I do my story, you know, and there'll be
And
guys,
then
you know, trying.
and and then they you work out and then they shoot you like 6 more times, right?
Yeah,
Oh
try
man.
to, try
Yeah.
to. And,
But
but then,
at
you know,
least
it wasn't only,
now you could be a good influence and role model for younger guys that were like you were, you know what I mean?
yeah.
That are looking for
Well, yeah, no, I
acceptance.
mean, I got a bunch of guys, man. I got some gorillas on my team, and they're all legit. So, you know, every now and then you'll get people that want to get tough and try, but, you know, I got an army behind me. I got an army behind me, but we don't have to go there. We don't have to go there, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm the type of individual that I can confront you by myself, man to man, and we could talk, you know,
Yeah.
because yeah, you know, I'm not going any other way. You know, I'm not gonna let somebody pull me off of my square and draw me back and you know come at them, you know, with a gun or something like that. You know,
Yeah, nah,
There-
me either, man.
nah, it's gonna take a lot more than that. You know, but like I said, you know, I'm focused on what I'm doing, and I know how to keep it respectful in the streets
Is
because
your book
you know,
is your book out? Is your book out?
no, they're still working on it. It's Chip McGregor is the true crime agent that's working on it, and James Forney, Joe Seifert, Octane Rich Films is the production crew that I'm doing the documentary, and then
Mhm.
hopefully after that, be working with Cyril DePaggio. Uh, hopefully do a series. You know, we're still talking, so nothing's uh, nothing's for sure, but and then hopefully some podcasts and stuff like that. Because my story is a redemption story. It's about survival. Uh, wasn't a kingpin, wasn't a gang chief, nothing like that. But I am respected. Respected by all those guys. I know I was very versatile in the streets. So like I get along very good, Latinos, blacks, you name it, I could rotate. First got out of prison, they threw me on the south side, 79th and King Drive, you know, and for me, I could go with the flow, get right in, and that was just normal for me, and that was what was good for me was because I was able to, talk to individuals and rotate around the neighborhood, and I don't have issues, because I'm not actively in a gang or nothing like that, so I don't have no enemies.
Yeah.
Most people that come across me, they'll tell you, even if they're opposition and stuff like that, you know.
I'm a pretty peaceful dude these days too, man. I got no problems with no one. Trying to move forward.
Yeah,
You
that's
got all these dudes are just gnats, man. They're just fucking pesky.
Right.
Get the hell out of here.
Right.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
98% of the time when somebody's talking about what they're going to do, that means they're probably not going to do nothing. And the other 2%, you just got to be careful because they might do it, So never snooze on nothing, But me, I'm always, my wife will tell you she thinks I'm paranoid, but I'm always, watching and looking and, protecting.
Well, you've been shot. You've been shot with 11 bullets, bro. I would be paranoid too.
Yeah,
I would.
It's always it's just an instinct and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't have any enemies. I haven't robbed anybody recently. Yeah, and I had something come up recently where I had got somebody for, I think it was half a brick. And this was 20 years ago. Though. So it's like, all right, maybe I'll pay you. I owe
That's a lot of money, man. Interest, bro.
I'll have to take what I give him. Maybe I'll give him 6 stacks. I don't know.
Oh man,
you're talking 20 years ago, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Hey, we sweep it on the rug. It's done.
The interest on that is pretty high, man.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. But
yeah, man.
Yeah, other than that,
I look forward to hearing your seeing the documentary, man. It sounds like some good stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, Cicero's got some really great history, from Al Capone to the tunnels under the ground, and then that's basically where the outfit started, and
that's where Al Capone's brother got killed when they were doing the voting, the thing. Frank
I don't know
Capone.
if it was in Cicero though. I think it was in Chicago.
No, Cicero, man.
Oh, maybe
Cicero.
You're right. I'm not an expert in stuff. But
they were trying to have these people vote for Al Capone's side, and they were they tried to like stop them at their job. You never seen did you see that?
A little bit.
Yeah, what the hell is that show, man? The fucking Boardwalk Empire. You didn't see that?
No, I mean listen, when I was in the joint, I used to watch television and all those shows all the time. And then when I got out, I stopped watching everything but the news.
Yeah.
And other than that, I'm working all the time. But yeah, I mean, I know that Cicero has a ton of history, when it comes to the outfit. And it's ironic because like we go past these houses now. And I remember my mother telling me these stories, and my grandmother would take her to these really big houses on Austin, which is like these are like real fancy houses in Cicero, and a lot of them the outfit guys had owned. And then now I start seeing it on the social media about these houses, and it's amazing because these were just normal houses that my mom used to speak about.
What are they, like big Victorian houses?
Not Victorian, but they're pretty big, and they got like architectural wise, they're like really distinct. So like when you see them, that they're beautiful houses. I post them on my page a lot on the Cicero Way, my way, the Cicero Way.
Yeah.
Stevie story. So I post a lot of those pictures and stuff, and you'll see like some of the description. I'll leave, about whatever history I know about the house and whatnot. And we're going to be doing some filming in Cicero. We did some at Albano's Pizza in Cicero, which, by the way, has football-sized pizza puffs, best pizza puffs in the world. It's right there in my neighborhood. Yeah, and the family, great family. Uh, they got a great history in the neighborhood. So that was like one of the joints that I used to hang out at. And the owner of the pizza shop, John, was a really good friend of mine. He was killed a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago. He was killed during an armed robbery. And
Oh man.
it was, yeah, and it was horrible because the guy went in there, killed him, shot him in front of his wife. And, luckily the business, is still thriving and succeeding. And, and he was one of the guys when I was down and out. And, I really didn't have nothing. This would be the guy that would give you pizza from the back door. And, he just looked out for me. And we had a personal relationship. So I told my wife, she's like, you should go there and do that part of your story, Yeah. And I went there, asked for permission to do filming. Yeah. I mean, I don't really talk about that part of my story because of, the respect for the family. So we don't want to get into that, about him being killed, but we do have scenes inside the restaurant, which is great, because like I said, it was part of my story. That's one of the spots that I hung out with. So they are very courteous and offered me the restaurant. We did the filming there. Came out great. If I wish
we saw that clip. Remember, you showed me.
Yeah, and I should have given you some pictures because I have some professional pictures from the producers that they let me. Certain pictures I'm able to release on Facebook and stuff with their permission. But other than that, everything is pretty much under wraps and they still own all the rights to it. So I can't release a lot of stuff. But when they do give me permission, I do put it on Facebook and stuff. And like I said, it's slowly gaining momentum. Everything I'm talking about is true. There's stuff you could Google. So, I mean, people that know my life from the neighborhood, they know, I was just a statistic that, I wasn't supposed to make it. I was either supposed to be dead or, put in prison for life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was able to change it around. I've been working for the last 10 years, a legit job. I'm a Teamster now. So, like I said, I'm not involved in anything criminal. I take care of my children. I'm with my kids every day. Been married for 10 years.
You're showing other people that are in your similar situation that are in and out of prison. You're showing them that people can change, and that you don't have to keep going back to prison every couple of months and every couple of years. I was doing the same thing, man. It was like it was never gonna end.
Oh yeah, I was down on the ground, rock bottom, and between the police and people in the streets hating me for everything that I had done, it wasn't looking good for me. My family was actually prepared to bury me. They're like, well, what do we do if something happens? We want to make sure we got everything covered. And I'm like, and then I started thinking about it when I was in prison, that's pretty bad that your family had to prepare for something like that. And then, when I had the time, because I'm sitting on a couple of years to start looking at my life, I didn't want to be like some of these individuals. Because like I said, I started meeting people in prison and I was drawn to these people because either they were a kingpin or a chief, because that's what interested me, or they were a serial killer, or, and I used to tell my wife, because she used to come and visit me, and I'd be like, yeah, this guy, this guy's William Herrings is a lipstick killer. He was in there for 50 years. And she's like, really? And I go, yeah. And then, Harry Allman, he's the hitman for the Chicago outfit. I had met him. And that was an interesting story because I had met his grandson in the prison and he had told me about his grandfather. And then in 2007, I ended up in a joint with him and we became friends. And then, he died. He ended up passing away from cancer. We were in Galesburg Correctional Center. This was around 2007. And I had told my wife, we were on a visit. And I'm like, you see that guy right there? And she's like, yeah. I go, it's Harry the Hitman. She goes, what? I go, his name's Harry Altman. And she didn't know because she wasn't, onto all that stuff. I'm like, hey, he was a hitman, and you wouldn't think about that when you look at him because he was just an old man.
Is he going to be getting out?
No, he died in prison.
He died in prison.
Yeah, Harry Allman. And I really didn't know who he was until, I knew he was a hitman because that's what they told me when I was in the joint. And I had met his grandson, and he had told me they were doing a book about him because his grandson, he was in the gang life and ended up getting like 60 years or something. And we were friends, and he told me that he had a grandfather that was part of the outfit and, thought it was just a prison story. And then I ended up in prison with the guy, and he had the same name. Yeah, and I told him that I had met his grandson, and that's really how we kicked it off, was I had explained to him that I had met his grandson, and he knew it because, obviously when I told him who his name was, and then we're both from the same kind of area. We didn't talk about his hits and stuff like that, or no outfit stuff, just, and, when I got out and, people were asking me, I told them, yeah, I had met some interesting people and they were asking me. And I said, yeah, I met Harry Allman. I know his son, Herbie, and Jeff. Jeff is the one that I speak to frequently, and I tell him that, sometimes I'll throw up a picture on my thing about him, but it's everything that's already public. So I'm not divulging anything secret or anything like that. And for some reason, people are interested in this stuff. And like I said, I mix everything. If you look at my page, you'll see I mix it with my story, and then I throw some outfit stuff in there because there's correlation between the two. And I let
like being going from your gang and then being around all the people in prison, meeting some outfit people. You got an array of characters in your in the story.
Yeah, and there is a lot of truth to it because if I'm not gonna say anything like implicate myself in anything, but I'm respected.
Don't do it on my show, man. I don't want to be the reason anyone goes to prison.
I got the right people in my corner, so I'm respected. People are just drawn to this, this type of stuff, and we're just gonna make money off of it. And it's my story. I'm gonna do what I want with it, and hopefully everybody likes it. It's a redemption story. It's a true story. Survival. I went through a lot of stuff, and I shouldn't be here talking, but I am. And not only that, but I'm able to change, and for the most part, I have nothing to hide. Really have nothing to hide, And other than that,
that's awesome, man. That's awesome that you could be an inspiration to people,
Yeah, well, hopefully, because so many other people go the other route, and then they find out when it's too late.
There's a bunch of people trolling in the comments with my boy Damien, but they're just talking, man, because none of them will really meet up. You know how it is. But people don't want to put their real name on there. They don't want to do this and that.
Yeah, people for the most part should if you don't like it, just people need to start promoting people more. Stop hating. That's what it is. It's hating, So when you get on there and you start disrespecting people, that's just haters. Luckily, I don't have too many haters, maybe besides a couple family members, but
I got a ton of them, man. Join the club.
No, but even the family, they're they know that I don't implicate them in any of my stories because I understand, what's going to make somebody mad or piss somebody off, So I keep it respectful, even with the police. I have a lot of friends that are police officers. So it's not, I have nothing against the cops or anything like that. Dirty
Yeah.
cops is dirty
I was
cops.
the same way, bro. I was the same way. I did not like cops at all. Like
but you know what it is there's a difference between good cops and bad cops, and there's a lot of real dirty cops.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that we don't need, because those are the pieces of shit. And those are the guys that used to do dirty stuff to me and then turn around and
I've been beaten up. I've been beaten up, man, making me walk the other way and shit.
Oh yeah, no, but see, when I was a juvenile, these guys would arrest me day in, day out, keep me in the police station. My parents were so scared because they're like, they didn't understand that, back then that these cops weren't able to do this stuff. And then on top of it, then, they kill my friend, or whatever happened, he's dead, but, and then I had that federal bullshit with the cops in Cicero. It's just, now let me do my story and don't say nothing, because I'm not talking about anybody, but I'm not going to let anybody in the neighborhood think that they can intimidate me either, because I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to do my story, and that's it. I'm going to get paid.
Thank you, Damon. Damien, thank you, man. I appreciate you, bro.
What's all that?
It's super chats. People can send money to donate to my channel.
Oh, that's cool.
And there's a couple comments here. I'm trying to find them. Most of them are just talking amongst each other, but
well, that's good. So, with that, basically, that's all I got for you guys. Just look me up on Facebook. Check it.
Yeah, you want to tell them your social medias and all that?
It's Steve Roden, and then it's My Way, the Cicero Way, the Stevie Bullet story. Got a TikTok, Stevie Bullets 12. Like I said, I'm doing a documentary on my life story about my prison, drugs. I was shot 11 times. I was able to come out of prison. I've been out for 10 years. Legit, working. Father of 3 kids. I have one son that's autistic. So, I do a lot of stuff with autism to help any individual that I can. My wife pretty much is like an advocate for people, and she's always helping out people in the neighborhood that need help getting services for autistic children. Like I said, I try to do my part in the neighborhood. I'm a registered voter, so I always go to the elections and stuff and voice my opinions, politically.
Yeah.
And I plan to do a lot more stuff politically now, so that the police understand that I'm very, very serious about, what I stand for and, what my message is. And, even anybody out there in the streets that, reaches out to me, I'll do my part to do whatever I can if it's within my reach and stuff. And I'm able to do it because that's just the type of person that I want to be now,
Did you have any dealings with any Greeks in Chicago?
Greeks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Greeks, Italian, Black, Hispanic. See, over here we have it's a lot of ethnicities. It's really very mixed, but it's very segregated. So you'll have a neighborhood with like Palestinians, and then you'll have we got every kind of neighborhood over here. Italian neighborhood, Little Italy, then you got Polish, everything. You got neighborhood for everybody. Chinatown, stuff like that. So, Chicago, Greeks, Italians are very close. They do a lot of business.
The Bus It Challenge on TikTok. Someone asked if you did the Bus It Challenge.
No, I didn't do the Bust It Challenge on TikTok.
Oh, man.
No, I don't have any criminal history on bloops and blunders.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all you guys in the comments, even though you guys are like basically I don't know, trolling yourselves and shit. I don't know what the hell you guys are doing. But definitely gonna have a lot more to come. And thank you for coming on, man. And I'll put a link for all your social medias and everything in the description so people can get to you.
All right, man.
But thank you, man. And I
Thank
want to give a
you.
shout out to your wife, man. She's the real rocking back of you.
Lucia Gotti.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Thank you, man. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop, man. Till next time. Thanks, Steve.
All right, brother. Peace out.
Later, man.